This is Popping the Bubble with hosts Sandra Ponce de Leon and Pete A. Turner.
This is Stevon Cook, CEO of Mission Bit, and you're listening to Popping the Bubble.
Hey, Stevon. It's so great to have you. So excited to find out about Mission Bit. We are recording here at the Vault, which is... We are here recording at the Vault, which is a full-stack innovation ecosystem and collaborative workspace based here in San Francisco in the heart of Silicon Valley. The Vault brings together an extensive suite of its startup advisory, acceleration, launchpad, and collaboration services under one roof and serves as a gateway for startups and corporations to Silicon Valley, the global center of technological innovation. So welcome, Stevon. It's so great to have you here. What you do is so exciting, but first I want to hear a little bit more about your background. You currently serve on the San Francisco Board of Education, and now you're also the CEO and founder of Mission Bit, and you're a commissioner. So tell us a little bit about your journey to found Mission Bit and your interest in education specifically.
Yeah. Well, I'm a third generation San Franciscan.
Wow.
My grandparents came here, their parents came here as a part of the war effort to work at the Navy shipyards. During World War II, the U.S. Navy was building warships along the coast of San Francisco, and a lot of people were living, African Americans came in from the South to work on the ships, and they were living in Baby Hunters Point.
Right.
My parents went to public schools here. My dad went to McAteer. He currently is a bus driver in San Francisco. My mother went to Lincoln High School. She didn't finish. She dropped out. She lives in Arkansas. So I was raised with my grandparents in the Fillmore, the Western Addition area of San Francisco. So, the public schools here were really instrumental in taking me from a place where, the neighborhood that I grew up in was pretty dangerous. It was we all grappled with a lot of the issues that were common in poor communities. And at school, I found a space where I was really pushed to be more than I thought I could be. My teachers were very, they just believed in me.
Yeah.
And that led to me going to college. I went to school in Massachusetts, a school called Williams College. And when I came back to San Francisco, there was always this big disconnect between why is it that we have such a thriving city and we have communities of people locked out of all the resources the city has to offer? What is the issue behind that disconnect? I also knew that public schools were at the ground floor for transforming lives. Had it not been for public schools, all the things that have come up for me would not have happened. At the same time, those schools consistently struggle with a lot of issues around students achieving at a high level, especially for low-income communities of color. So there were all these compounding things that I knew for some reason folks hadn't been able to solve.
Right.
And I wanted to play a role in solving them through policy. And so, my initial interest was in education, and then it moved into how I heard and decided to work at Mission Bit. Education, I was running for school board in 2014. I had just been working in public schools, doing academic support programs and an after-school program. When I decided to run, it was really to address those systemic issues. I read an article in the New York Times about the state of Alabama, which reported that no African-American students in the entire state had taken the AP Computer Science exam. And I thought, man, that sucks for Alabama. But, San Francisco, the epicenter of tech, must be doing better than that.
Right.
And it was the exact same results in San Francisco.
Same.
No African-American students on record had ever taken the AP Computer Science
Ever.
exam.
Wow. What year was this?
This was looking 10 years back. So the news article was in the SF Chronicle.
Yeah.
It was written in 2015 that talked about this access disparity. But not only had no African-American students taken the exam, only 6% of high school students had access to a computer science class in the city of San Francisco.
6% of the public school students in San Francisco, no access to tech classes.
Only 6% were enrolled.
Oh, only 6%.
So
yeah,
90,
okay. Right, 94. Yeah, right.
So
That's crazy.
And you said something earlier in your open about
you got pushed to be something more than you thought you could be.
Right.
So put us in that headspace for a minute. What did you think you could be? I mean, because it's really easy for people to, as a society, to look at a pocket of kids and go, they made bad choices. Mm-hmm. But what was your reality? What was possible?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of kids grow up wanting to be famous. They want to play sports or entertain, and that was very pervasive in my neighborhood. There wasn't a lot of discussion about different types of careers. Like at the time, I think my dad was an assistant at a hospital. He had a hard time keeping a job, and my mom did too. And you kind of hear about the lawyer doctor thing as as something that people talk about, but there wasn't a lot of examples of people doing those things in my neighborhood. So for me, all the ways that people were getting money were quick. People sold drugs, they stole cars. They were like, I tell people this story. It's a trip, in San Francisco. So there were kids along my entire block, and imagine it's my house. The person next door to me, he grows up to become a pimp, and the person next door to him, she grows up to become a prostitute. And this all starts when we were in high school.
This is actuality.
Yeah, this is high school. They started doing this. And
wow.
The person on the other side of me, who was my best friend when we were in high school, he started getting involved in just a lot of neighborhood violence. So he had been shot. He had done some shooting. He had just kind of got wrapped up in all of that stuff. So when you are kind of maneuvering throughout life, there's a lot of self-destructive behavior that is very attractive to kids, I think, at the same time, because there's a level of like rebelliousness and freedom, and there's people look nice, they have cars. Yeah. You make a few bad choices, and the next 10 years of your life look very different. Like, I think the biggest change, the only reason I really didn't get wrapped up in it is because I moved in with my grandparents. That was really the only thing that changed. This is the house that my dad lived in. And I moved in with my grandparents, my sister and me, when we were 10. Yeah. When I was 10. She's a year older. And their house was very, very different than, how my parents structured the home. Like, my grandmother was like a church every day type person, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
every day, every day,
every day. Like on Thursday mornings, Thursday at lunch, we would be at Laguna Honda, which is a hospital in San Francisco for the elderly, and she would play piano for them.
Oh, wow.
And we would push patients from their beds to the chapel so she could play piano for them. And she would sign us up for these reading classes, and we had to learn how to speed read. Or she would have us in Bible study Wednesday night, and we had to do choir rehearsal Friday night. Yeah. So it was just and we constantly had to memorize speeches, and then read in our spare time. I went from a home that had very little structure to one that was just really, really strict, and a lot of expectations that were uncompromising. And I really yearned for that time with the neighborhood kids, because they looked like they were having so much more fun. And they had the Jordans, and I had to wear shoes that I had to ask for stuff and not get it. And, so it's just it's a trip now, because working with a lot of kids like I do today, and I understand, kids didn't really understand. And so I think it's just really easy to get seduced by the lifestyle. And then, by the time you're 16, you're probably incredibly behind on credits. You probably had been justice involved, which means you've been arrested once or twice. And you started to build a sense of your identity based on doing things that were dangerous, and you got through it, or somebody doesn't like you and they have something against you. Anyway, being able to go into my grandparents' home and having structure, and coming home and not ever having to worry about there was going to be food there, all of that kind of provided this foundation to really help me really get into school, to really hear my teachers. I was in a position to really take what they were giving me. And one of the experiences that was most transformative while I was in high school, my 10th grade English teacher, her name is Allison Rowland, she told me about a program that was at Stanford, a summer program, and it was a 3-week philosophy camp, basically. You took philosophy classes by Stanford professors. And it was the first time I had left San Francisco, like for an extended period of time by myself. I had taken little trips here and there. And the kids in the program, were from all over the world, from very wealthy homes. And like there was a kid there, their parent was an ambassador. Another kid there lived in Beverly Hills. So his zip code was 90210. and I had heard of the show. I didn't really watch the show, but I just knew it was a show. I didn't know it was a place. I didn't know 90210 was like an actual place. And so they talked about their parents, and they asked me, what do your parents do? And I was like, well, I live with my grandparents. And so they were like, well, what's your mom? And, I hadn't seen my mom in years. I actually didn't know where she was at the time. And so I lied. I made something up.
Yeah.
But I knew then, I say it was transformative because I knew then that, if I ever had kids, I didn't want them to have to answer that question and feel how I felt. And I knew if that was going to happen, I had to compete with the kids in this program to go to college. So my whole mentality about school, it was just like this sense of urgency to use my education to escape. But I wouldn't have had that teacher not said, I think that you might enjoy this program. And all the teachers before and since her saying that there's something out there for you that you can really get if you invest your time in this right now. And I just really started to hear them.
Wow. That's incredible. An incredible story. Thank you for sharing that. So I guess, let's take that to the future. So how did you found Mission Bit?
Yeah, so Mission Bit had already started. It was started by Tyson Daughtery. And when I told you about the article.
Right.
After I read the article, I started to look up organizations that were trying to solve it because I just wanted to talk about it as a campaign issue. I was looking to do something about it had I been elected. So I looked up a bunch of organizations on Twitter, and Mission Bit was one of them. And Tyson responded to the message. And when we met, the organization was all volunteer run. And they were at one site. I met him after the campaign was over. And I lost the first campaign. I lost in 2014. And I just wanted to know if I could be helpful. I met all these new people. Is it possible for me to connect you to anybody to help your work? And at the end of that conversation, Tyson said, do you want to run Mission Bit? Do you want to be the CEO? And so that's kind of how it all started.
Wow.
Started on Twitter.
Amazing.
Yeah. I met the board. They were all... It was interesting. They're like, if you pay attention to the San Francisco political climate around gentrification, economic inequality, the whole city being overrun by the tech industry, there's been this ongoing aversion to the presence of tech in San Francisco.
Yes. And
having just run a political campaign, I was like hypersensitive to that, right? And so I had some reservations about working for, even though it was a good cause, an organization that it could be seen as part of the problem. But after I met the board, the people that were trying to build the organization were so committed to providing this learning opportunity. Like one of the guys on the board, he was also one of the founders of Dev Bootcamp, which is a coding school that just dissolved recently. But he grew up in rural Indiana on a farm, and there was no computer science at his high school. So he found the computer science book at the library and got a 5 on the AP computer science exam, which is like the highest score you can get. And he just taught himself. And so there
without
was
actually having any practical hands-on experience, he just read the book, informed himself enough to ace the test. Wow.
Yeah, and he started this coding school. And
he started coding school.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So his commitment to offering this was pretty serious. It just made me, he and all the others that were trying to start this organization, that were all doing it as volunteers, it really convinced me that there was an opportunity to build this bridge. Because I didn't grow up, I'm not a software engineer. I've never worked at a tech company. My focus has been offering opportunities to low-income communities, people, or just people that want to better themselves, right? And this was the way for me to help bridge that divide. We had, like I mentioned when I started out, like, what are the ways we can connect these under-resourced communities to this thriving city? And Tyson and this group of guys are already doing that in a very, very small way. They had started this one class at this one program. And, they had these gaps because there was no staffing, right? They had this attrition rate where they would bring in a bunch of students and a bunch would leave. Recruiting around diversity was really a challenge. But it was more so like trying to get in some learning, right? When they hired me, the organization had $25,000 in the bank. That wasn't going to get me very far.
No.
Like this year, we just received our first $1 million grant in partnership with the city of San Francisco through DCYF.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, no, thank you. So I was the first staff person. That's what we had today. We had 20 employees. We're running courses across 2 cities. We served about 1,800 students to date. And our goal is to get to 10,000 students by the year 2020. So our strategy is to focus on the 9 Bay Area counties and grow courses in communities that have high concentrations of low-income high school students and very little access to computer science.
Wow. And all the courses are coding courses, or is that primarily what you teach?
Yes. So for the past 3 years, we've mostly taught an intro to web development course. This fall, we're rolling out 3 additional courses so we can take students from just having 50 hours of instruction to having 200 hours, keep them for 2 years, and really, while they're with us, help inform their post-secondary decisions. So a lot of, we just now have the staffing to do some real tracking around what happens once kids leave us, right? Because we bring on a cohort of students. There'll be like 150 students, and then that's the fall. And then the spring, we got a new 150 students, and we're trying to get them all through the program. So we're now going back through our alumni network just to talk to people. Are you still doing computer science? Are you, like, we've seen things anecdotally, right? Like a lot of our instructors, the way that we run the classes, we hire mostly college students part-time to teach the classes. And a lot of our instructors are former Mission Biz students. They were in our high school program,
so cool.
And they come back and they're now teaching. They go to local universities here. So we've seen, our students go on to college to computer science majors. We have students that leave high school and go straight into the industry. And we have students that,
Hey everyone, this is Sandra from Popping the Bubble, and we're coming to you from The Vault in San Francisco.
What's the Vault?
Well, thank you for asking, Pete. The Vault is a full-stack innovation ecosystem and collaborative workspace.
Full stack innovation, ecosystem, collaborative work. That sounds super techy.
Well, you're right there, Pete. Full stack means that in addition to being a great place to collaborate and network for startups, The Vault has a full suite of startup advisory services, such as fundraising help, legal, IP, and marketing services.
Let's also mention how the Vault works with corporations through Viz, the Vault Innovation Services, and VIA, which is the Vault Innovation Academy, which also offers courses in developing innovation at scale.
The Vault celebrates innovators from around the world and provides entrepreneurs with the right tools and support to grow better and faster.
This segment of Popping the Bubble is brought to you by The Vault. Thanks to Kevin and his team for all the amazing work they do to fuel innovation in Silicon Valley and across the globe.
Go on to college to computer science majors. We have students that leave high school and go straight into the industry. And we have students that, find out that maybe coding wasn't for them, but they still want to learn more about what it means to be in technology. They developed this new sense of agency about what they can do to improve a situation in their community, and they take that with them to the next opportunity.
Wow. Very cool. And so are the classes a daily class after school, or is it multiple times a week?
Right. So in the fall and spring, the classes run twice a week after school.
Okay.
That's the fall and spring. So it's like Monday, Wednesday, 4 to 6, or Tuesday, Thursday, 4 to 6. In the summer, today was the first day of summer class.
Okay.
And the summer classes run Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Okay.
So it's much more intensive. And so we'll continue in that way moving forward with the four classes we're offering.
Well, I've got so many questions. I'd love to hear about, some of your success stories. If you have any students that you want to highlight and tell us about tell us their story.
Yeah. I have a ton. It was,
And right now, your face is just completely lit up thinking
Totally.
about them. So that's just really, really cool.
yeah. Well, yeah, I'm trying to think about which one. I mean, I think one of our students, her name is Gisela, and she was a student at Lowell High School. She would commute about 2 hours on the bus when she was in high school to take the class at Mission High. So our classes they're based at a school site after school, and kids from surrounding school sites come to that site. And Gisela, she hated math, and people think like that math is a prerequisite, like you need to be good at math to start learning how to code. And she was just not into math, but she really loved just figuring out how to build stuff with the syntax. And so had it just been offered at her school, she probably wouldn't have continued. But the fact that she had a way to kind of do it after school on her own terms, it was really inspiring for her. She was so compelled by building with technology, she decided not to go to college and to go straight into a coding boot camp. And her parents were really supportive in her doing that. After the coding boot camp, she we usually partner with Hack Reactor. Hack Reactor is one of the more premier coding boot camps. They have a higher job placement rate, but when you're trying to get a job for an 18-year-old, at a company, it's kind of tough at a lot of these companies.
Yeah.
So she found other opportunities to expand the love of coding, right? So she's taught with us for several semesters, and she went to Jordan, the country of Jordan, to teach Syrian refugees how to code.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, and so she now got her first job. She works like a few blocks from the vault. She stops by for lunch every now and again.
Fun.
and she's been recruiting other instructors for us. She's like a really great advocate. So she's incredible. The other story I'll tell is about one of our students from East Oakland. We started our classes in Oakland, and in San Francisco, and we've been growing our classes in Oakland. And this one student, her name is Anaj. She started taking our classes when she was in the 8th grade. She's in the 10th grade now. Anaj is one of 7 kids. They live in a 1-bedroom home in East Oakland, and she's, I think, the second in the group. So she was responsible for getting all of her siblings to school safely, and going to school. She was getting really good grades. She wasn't at all interested in coding. She just really wanted to make people. One thing that she loved to do was make people happy. Like she was telling me these stories about how she loved putting smiles on people's faces, and so a lot of her games were like funny games that she wanted to help people smile with. And I was helping her prepare for, we had a gala last year. It's like this annual fundraising event. And as we were talking about her speech, I asked her what she wanted to do for her career. And she was telling me she wanted to be the secretary at the ER for a hospital. And so like when you go to the ER, there's somebody that checks you in before you go to the back. And I was like, oh, why do you want to do that? And she said, well, I have severe asthma. And whenever I have to go to the hospital, there's a woman behind the desk that always makes me smile when I come to the hospital.
Aw.
And I was like, that's awesome. But you can be the CEO of the hospital.
Yeah.
You can run the hospital and make sure that everyone's experience is like the one that you had when you interact with that woman. And she said, I could be the CEO of a hospital. And I was like, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
So her, seeing somebody's perspective on themselves shift, right, was something that was offered to me when I was her age. Like my perspective on myself shift as a result of an experience. It was someone was telling me about my potential. And so Anaj is now focused on leadership in organizations, right, and being someone that has the ability to do that. She's like another great example of the students that are coming to Mission Bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's incredible. Great stories. I imagine that many of the kids start to see, when they see the success that they're having with Mission Bit, are starting to, see how else they can apply that in other areas of their lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the great thing about what this offers to students, like the intangibles that I hope that students find in some other way, is, when you're making something in Mission Bit, the students they make their own concept right there, and there are no grades.
I see.
And so if you want to build a website that grades your teachers or rates your lunch, or you want to build a website that has scholarship resources for undocumented students, right, or one that addresses homelessness, like these are all real projects that our students make. They start to see the tools they're building with technology to solve things that they see in their community, and they're doing it for the sake of completing a project. So the incentive around it really is seeing their own idea come to fruition,
right?
Which is something that you don't really get offered in school.
Exactly.
School, I mean, somebody that oversees the public education system, right? School, the way that it is currently designed, encourages compliance and is based on rubrics. You perform for grades, which is in a sense like very much a delayed gratification because it's going to pay off once you are applying to college. But what we offer with students, they struggle with a problem, and then they get through it, and then they can continue to start to build on it, and then what they build they can share, right? Like, when you get an A in English, your friends are going to engage with that in a different way than the game that you made for them.
Yeah.
Right.
So the whole interaction of what you completed is way more tangible.
Right. And I can imagine, a higher sense of pride even because you created it, you brought it to life. It was your own idea. Yeah.
Something that was impossible 4 months earlier. Maybe even couldn't even think of, like, it wouldn't even enter your imagination to think that this was possible. And now just a handful of months and you've got something incredible, right? Like,
exactly.
Like an incredible obstacle to overcome. So much more than reading Ethan Frome in English class. God bless Ethan Frome, great book and all, but at the end of 3 months, I've how quickly can I forget this book?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
It's such a different dynamic.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's almost like public education should, take some pages out of your book. In terms of how to really inspire students, right? If they had more say in their own curriculum about what they're learning and how they learn it,
right.
the success rate might be so much higher.
Yeah, there has been an emphasis toward project-based work, things that are more so in groups that model more of how the real world operates, but the overwhelming majority of the way the school is structured now is still, the older model.
Yeah,
and
in a box.
Right. And all those other things are important. Like, we need students to be well-versed in literature. We need them to appreciate art. We need them to know math. But we also need to do some real work around financial literacy. We need to understand what college debt means, what a mortgage means.
Right.
Why the country is so, why our debt to income ratio is so out of whack. Like, there's a lot of real world skills that we have yet to implement in a meaningful way in our education system. It's a lot of the things I want to solve while I'm on a school board.
Yeah, that's great.
One of the things I do with all my podcasts is I use Charity on Top to donate money, and I try to just drop money in here and there. So I've already, while we were talking, donated to Mission Bit.
Oh, thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's never a lot, but I just try to make it constant. So there's just a little flow of money. And so thank you to the Charity on Top ladies who helped me out with that. But also thank you to you for what you're doing. I mean, apart from the show aside, just to take on this kind of a challenge. I mean, it's impossible to get a bunch of kids to go get AP coding level classes done. I mean, that's not supposed to be able to be a problem that someone can tackle in Alabama, let alone here, but you're doing it. And I think it's incredible to give these kids a challenge that is a challenge, but they actually can overcome it. And what a reward. I mean, that right there, if that was it would be wonderful, but it's so much more than that. And I just thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, is there... I know I had another question in here, but I was just I'm kind of just trying to digest everything that you said. And it's really so amazing because, the youth is our future,
How,
right?
how do people help? If there's people
Yeah,
that they're
how
like,
do we
yeah, I
help?
want
Exactly.
more kids that don't have access. My kid has access. My kid has a laptop. They're a knucklehead. I want to help these other kids that don't have as much access. What do they do?
Raise your children. Your kid's a knucklehead, you know. I'm joking. But the organization is still relatively unknown. And we have a lot of aspirations to really get this learning opportunity out to more communities. I think that if there are people listening in some remote place and they're thinking, there's no way that I can start a coding class in my community, I would challenge you to do so. You know, I mean, I think my story is one that shows that it's possible without the technical expertise to really grow this in a meaningful way. And if they're interested in doing that, I would love to be a resource to them to try to help them get something off the ground. If they want to.
So are you actually looking for franchise opportunities to take Mission Bit into other parts of the country?
No, I mean, Mission Bit is really focused on solving this problem here, because I do believe it's a regional issue, and we talk about that 100,000. You know, I talked about the 9 Bay Area counties, and there are 100,000 students that attend those schools, and that's 100,000 reasons for me to stay here to figure out how to offer this to them here. But it doesn't mean that, you know, this work shouldn't be collective and done and continued in other places. So I want people to start more coding classes, and I want to be helpful to them if I can by sharing resources that help me get off the ground. If they're in this area and they know of teenagers that they want to expose to Mission Bit or to coding, they should consider bringing them to Mission Bit. If they're in this area and they want us to do like a one-time workshop, we can figure out a way to get to your school community if you're in one of the 9 Bay Area counties, or we can do something together like on a one-time basis. And you know, you just may not be in either of those categories, but you want to see us get to this $10,000 goal. So giving dollars is a great way to help us sustain the work that we're doing.
And when is your gala?
It's November 1st. We're sending out invitations. Hopefully, the goal is to send them out by the end of this month. So there should be information on the website about the gala come July 1st. And
do you have some partnerships with companies here in the Valley?
Yes.
Supporting your work?
Yes. We've partnered with several companies in different ways. Tomorrow or Thursday, we're picking up 70 laptops from Rocket Lawyer, and we've gotten laptop contributions from a number of different companies. You know, there are organizations and foundations that have donated. Facebook has donated. Salesforce, Adobe. We've worked with Google. So everyone is sort of in this region we've connected with in various ways. Delphex is a company that we've just started working with this year, and they've been really great too.
Great, that's great to hear. I mean, I could ask a question. It would take us a little bit backwards, but
you want to?
Yeah, I guess I guess I'm curious. What role do you think parents have to play in this whole, and how are you seeing the parents contributing to the student success as they're going through this process?
Right. Yeah, I think our parents are our greatest partners in helping students persist, because when this gets really challenging, students want to quit, and even if a parent isn't well versed in a learning opportunity, they can really be a major source of encouragement to help a student continue. When we look at the research, Google.edu did a ton of research around bias in coding education and the conditions for persistence. The biggest factor in a student learning computer science or going into the industry is that they had a parent that worked on computers. It's not male or female. It's like that one thing is one of the major catalysts for students growing in the industry. And that a lot of parents really want the learning opportunity, but they just don't have access to it. And so we see that when students have a very supportive environment, that they have a better chance of continuing and thriving. So we just had a family orientation before the start of the class on today, And that was our biggest message to them, was that, there's probably going to be some points in the summer where your student wants to quit. And when that happens, you need to have a message of encouragement and not encourage quitting, but encourage staying, because you may be the difference between them staying and not.
Right. Do students want to quit?
Yeah,
all of them.
It's hard work.
Every one of them has a moment where they just want to drop out.
Oh, not 100%.
Okay.
No, not 100%.
But I mean, young people haven't been pushed in this way. It's a challenge, and it's easier to do what they've always done, which is not do this thing.
Right.
So there is a push that you have to create.
Yeah, and there's a very pervasive message around, on sticking to things that you think that you're good at. Like, there's just all this research that came out by an educator named Carol Dweck around growth mindset. And so the mentality, like the message that students often hear is that, oh, you're smart, or you're really good at this. And when we tell students that they're smart, just because we think that they're smart, it doesn't encourage persisting through something hard.
Right.
So when something gets hard, they feel like they're not smart. They want to go back to the thing that they were doing that made them feel smart. So what we should be telling students is, you did well on that because you worked hard.
Right.
And if you continue to work hard like that, you're going to continue to succeed. Well, that didn't go well. Let's talk about why not, and what we can do better what we can do differently next time to make sure that it goes a different way, and that and to encourage types of tasks that are challenging, right? So that people, like families should be doing things that embrace discomfort. Everything shouldn't be easy. Everyone should be thinking about, you sacrificing for an objective. Like, that should be something that families should bring kids into the decision or into that lifestyle, right? Because I know parents do it a lot for their kids, and kids may not understand or appreciate it. They may feel disconnected from those sacrifices. But when we bring kids into those types of decisions, then we help build their ability to persist when things get hard.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's through those obstacles that we grow.
Yeah. So all types of activities that encourage that. So like jujitsu is one of those things, right? You get beat up. Like I'm guessing jujitsu, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So when you like, you're gonna be bad when you start.
Yeah.
And you're gonna
hurt.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not like, so it's the chances you get really, really injured aren't that high, but it does play on your ego when you're constantly having to tap, and but you learn that over time you get better at this one thing. And, instruments do that, right? Like a lot of different types of activities that build out that ability to persist. Coding is that.
Right.
So if students haven't had that type of push in the past, then their ability to get through this is a little more challenging. Our students that really succeed, like, we had another student this past semester. She played 3 instruments, spoke 2 languages. She was a lifeguard, so like she had all the stuff.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah, and she came into the coding class and she talked about we did a video on her story, and she talked about how she enjoyed struggling with the problems and getting to the other side. But she had she's 14, 15. She had all these experiences that taught her about her ability to do those things, So if you haven't been challenged in any real way, and you come into this, then it's going to be hard.
Yeah. Well, it's great. I think we should all take a lesson from that and continue to learn new skills and push through the tough times.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's easy, you're not growing, you're not working hard enough. You got to find some challenge. You got to find out what that is and persevere. Because look, honestly, everybody's talented. Hard work is going to destroy talent. It's just going to dominate it.
Exactly.
You can be that most talented fighter in the world. You go get in the mat with an old dude who's worked hard for years and years, and he's going to make you scream because your thumb's bent the wrong way. That's just how it is. So go learn how to bend thumbs.
Okay, let's not encourage violence here.
In a gentle way. Yeah, bend your thumbs on the keyboard properly.
Yeah, whatever that means for you. Some people do it by so many ways. And I really believe it in the way that I live my life. Like like take cold showers, right? Not like all cold, but like a momentary cold shower, or get up early in the morning, do some temporary fasting, like whatever those things are that when you have an objective in mind and you're willing to get something up in service of that objective, I think it's a very powerful way to remind yourself that discomfort leads to success, and sacrifice in service of success is worth the sacrifice. So yeah, I do that today in my own life, and I think it's and I ask our kids to do the same thing.
Great. Yeah. Great piece of advice and wisdom. Well, Stevon, it was really awesome having you here, and we love the work that you do, and we are going to do our best to support Mission Bit and spread the word about the programs, and try to get you some more funding, and just encourage us to get to that 10,000 students.
No, yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to tell this story, and thanks. I really appreciate you having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.